excited to see you today and cannot thank you enough for joining us. Please forgive me as I am freezing in the South. I have been on multiple calls with people all over the country, and they're telling me about how warm it is in the North. And I am thinking to myself, I woke up to 30-degree weather in the South, and something is definitely not right about that. So I am wearing my snuggliest sweatshirt, which is also a blanket you can wear today. So please forgive me, but I am so excited to have you here today. And I am not only your hostess with the mostest, but I am also your webinar presenter today. Let me move my head. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to get started. We're going to try to keep this under 45 minutes, just to get y'all a little breather and a break before you get back to seeing patients. So here we go. Before we get started, wherever two or more shall gather, thou shalt not talk about fees. But you know, I can't really talk about risk in practice when we're talking about financial policies and fee schedules without using fees. So just know that I made these numbers up, like pulled them out of thin air, and they are not a recommendation for what you should or could be charging in practice. And my friends in California are going to know it too when they see these crazy prices because they're far too low or high. Who knows? So necessity is the mother of invention. So you guys know that I am Kristi Hudson with ChiroHealthUSA. This is the ChiroHealthUSA weekly webinar series. And I've been here for about 10 years. I'm a certified professional compliance officer. I geek out and love compliance and rules and regulations. I know you guys don't love them so much, but I really want to make it my goal to be able to highlight some risk in your practice and then give you some really easy ways to just eliminate them so that you can do what you do best, which is focusing on patient care, the most important job. So ChiroHealthUSA was started by Dr. Ray Foxworth. He has been in practice for over 30 years, second generation chiropractor, and he wasn't like he was treating patients and thought, man, I really need a second job. It really came out of a necessity from what he calls his most painful day in practice. And I'm sure many of you docs and even UCAs, y'all remember those first patients that came in when you started working in chiropractic. And they're probably still your favorite patients today. And Ms. Jones and her family, those patients, his favorite patients that came in, the very first ones to walk through his door when he opened up his practice back in 1985. And so they didn't have insurance, and he was treating them and charging them his cash fee for many, many years. They were regular patients, whole family, husband, wife, 2 children were coming in very regularly for many, many years. And then one day, Ms. Jones was in a car accident. And so he started charging his actual fee in practice. And one day he walks into the treatment room to see Ms. Jones. He's really excited to see her, see how she's doing, how's the recovery coming along. And when he walked into the room, he could instantly tell that something quite wasn't right. And he was like, Ms. Jones, is everything okay? And in her hand, she's holding the EOB, and she said, Doc, it's guys like you ripping off insurance companies that prevent me and my family from being able to afford insurance. And she walked out, and she never came back. She didn't get treated, never saw her again. The next time he even hears about her is when he gets a notification from his board of examiners because she reported him to the board as well as the state attorney general's office. And it was in that moment that he learned a lot and really fast about what you could and couldn't do when it came to your fees, offering discounts to your patients, and what what would happen when you didn't follow those rules and regulations. And unfortunately, that just wasn't something that he had learned while he was in school. Nobody had ever told him that what he could or couldn't do. It was a harsh way to learn that reality. But what he also didn't understand was why it was okay for insurance companies to pay him less than his actual fee, but he couldn't extend that kind of a discount to his patients who didn't have the benefit of insurance and needed that discount to make chiropractic care affordable. And in that process, he discovered discount medical plan organizations. Now, the irony is these programs have been around for over 30 years, and almost every one of them is owned by an insurance company. mind blown. And it's interesting because I don't know that I ever really thought about it before, but since I've had insurance on my own in my early 20s, there's always like that prescription discount program. There's always the discount program for vision or discount program for dental. And I didn't know what those were, but they're part of those insurance plans that offer the discount medical program. And so he thought, well, why isn't there one for chiropractic? And so he started one to help him. And originally it was only available in Mississippi because he had to set it up in Mississippi, so he might as well help his colleagues. And then other people started coming into Mississippi to speak, and they were consultants, and they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Everybody needs this. Now here we are 12 years later, almost 12 years later, and it is nationally in 49 out of 50 states. So that is where the idea for ChiroHealthUSA came up. The cool thing is that it was started by a chiropractor for chiropractors, and it was meant to benefit chiropractors because he wrote a contract that would benefit not only that benefited him, because all of the DMPOs that he had looked into before starting this one, he became the victim of silent PPO activity. He wasn't getting paid what he needed just to be able to break even, much less make a profit. And he did not want that for the chiropractic profession. So in this process of being reported to the State Attorney General's office and his Board of Examiners, he's learning the rules and regulations. He learned about the 5 things that most chiropractors are not even aware of, are things that are violating some type of rule or regulation and putting them at tremendous risk. And I forgot to say, because I'm not really used to being my presenter and moderator, but the handouts are available down below. So if you look just below where you type in the comment section, you'll see files. You can click there and download all of the handouts for today. So the first one is a dual fee schedule, and that is his Miss Jones story. It's where you're charging more to insurance than you do to your cash patients. Misstates your charges to character. FYI, it violates your provider agreements that you have in place, and it can be a potential False Claim Act violation. And you'll see that a lot of these 5 things like overlap, which is why you see these crazy headlines where doctor, was investigated and had to pay $75,000 in fines for like a really minuscule complaint, or so it seemed. Like it's like a $20,000 overpayment turns into $200,000 overnight because they didn't just violate one rule; they violated like 3 rules, and then all of those kinds of penalties pile up on top of each other. The next one is improper time of service discounts, and I will say this: that from traveling around the country, speaking at chiropractic conventions, that this one is one that has so much misunderstanding behind it. First of all, a time of service discount should only be given when a patient pays at the time of service. Meaning, I came today, I paid today, so I get a discount because you're not having to bill me after I have left the building. The OIG states that 5 to 15% is considered reasonable. What we see working with chiropractors all across the country is that more often than not, time of service discounts might have been 10% back in 1985, but over time your fees have gone up, but that price has not changed. So now it's like a 30, 40, 50, 60% discount. It's often a cover for a dual fee schedule. Inducement violations. This one we see a lot is when like waiver of copays and deductibles, offering free or discounted exams, x-rays, or therapies. The OIG allows you to discount $15 per item and no more than $75 on an annual basis for this federally insured payment. This one has civil money penalties of up to $10,000 per wrongful act. Again, that's where you get these crazy numbers from. And then next we have anti-kickback, which is the law that prevents you from receiving any kind of remuneration in order to induce a referral or government-paid healthcare business. And this is a criminal statute, which includes fines up to $25,000 per violation and up to 5 years in prison or both. And we've had guests on the webinar series in the past who talked about how they actually were part of an OIG investigation, how they had to serve time in prison. It's not something that happens very often, but it does happen. Sometimes it's flat out fraud, sometimes not so much. Fix it. The False Claim Act violation, again, this one could be a waiver of copays or deductibles as well. This is undercoding to make care more affordable for cash patients, overcoding when insurance is available, and again has fines of $5,000 to $10,000 per claim. So Dr. Foxworth always says that the only thing that remains constant is change, and that Heraclitus didn't realize all those hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, that he was talking about healthcare. Healthcare is the second most regulated industry in this country. The only thing more regulated than the work that we do is the environment. And oftentimes we get conflicting information depending on who we're calling. What about state board rules that conflict with federal rules and regulations, or provider agreements that say that if I'm a Blue Cross Blue Shield patient and you're a Blue Cross Blue Shield provider, you have to file my insurance. But the HIPAA high-tech rule says that as a patient, I get to decide if I want my insurance filed or not. And if I tell you not to file my insurance, the federal government says you are prohibited from filing my insurance. So what do? Whose rules do you follow? So let's talk about why things are so regulated. The bottom line is that there is a lot of fraud and abuse that goes on in this country, to the tune of about $68 billion annually, which is 3% of the nation's $2.26 trillion in healthcare spending. Other estimates range as high as 10% of the annual healthcare expenditure at $230 billion. It's a lot of money. It's very costly, and they really want to get down to the bottom of it. So what does that have to do with the chiropractic profession? Well, unfortunately, we have made headlines over the last decade or more when it came to healthcare fraud and abuse. On top of that, not just chiropractors, but healthcare in general, it's a cash cow. We just went through a presidential election. Do not post your politics on here. This is not why I'm bringing this up. But typically, whenever we have elections, national elections, presidential elections, one of the things they talk about is national debt, and the other one is the cost of healthcare. So the national debt is huge, but going after healthcare fraud is a cash cow. So when back in 2008, for every dollar they invested into healthcare audits, they were getting $17 back. So let's just say that my face is a slot machine and you're putting in $1 and $17 is spitting out. How many dollars would you shove into that? Now, it is significantly less now. It was down to $2.92 back in 2018, but then in 2019, it actually bumped back up to $6.41, which is a 641% return on investment. And in 2016, they estimated that 82% of Medicare claims by chiropractors were improperly paid. Now, as it turns out, that was not 100% accurate. We've significantly reduced that percentage thanks to the great work of many consultants around the country who are helping chiropractors. We're going to skip that too. Okay, so here's an example of, because I'm trying to make sure y'all get a break and get lunch. So here is a great case that came out of Iowa. And this one I really, really like to share with people because it's the common story that I hear around the country about, well, some insurance covers a service, some don't, so I'm just going to give it away for free. And then because it's free to everybody, then it doesn't really, I'm not going to get myself in trouble because I'm being fair to everybody. And that's kind of the thought process, I think, behind this situation where this doctor offered free STEM to all of his patients. Unfortunately, the government doesn't look at it that way. This is a service that has a value in your office, and giving it away for free cost him almost $80,000. Now, this is fines and penalties. This isn't taken into effect, paying for a healthcare attorney to, defend you in a case like this, or the fact that it takes 2 to 3 years of your life while you're going through this. But it looks at like a kickback situation. It can also be a False Claim Act violation. It could also be an inducement violation because you're giving away something of value for free. So I want you to think about that. The other thing is too, and this is the way I choose to look at this when it comes to free services. We always want to help our patients have access to every available therapy, modality, any kind of care that we have in our office is going to help improve their quality of life, help them to heal faster, better, and get them back to where they were. Unfortunately, not all of our patients can afford that. And so that's why these things end up getting done for free or for way undervalued. But at the same time, you have to think of every service that you provide in your office is a product and it has a market value. And when we say that STEM is a free service, then we're taking away the value of that service. So it's a fine balance in being able to, again, help your patients doing it the right way, following the rules. And then again, we want our patients to know the value of the services that you provide in your office. You know, your state board cares too. One of the #1 complaints to boards of examiners is over financial policies. I mean, you have to be careful when it comes to what you're charging. That's why Dr. Foxworth got turned into his board of examiners, is because he went from charging, you know, his cash fee to his actual fee once insurance was involved. And that's a huge no-no. This particular doctor was brought before his board of examiners. It says for unprofessional conduct. Actually, I was just talking with some friends of mine last night who are consultants and healthcare attorneys, and we were talking about my love of board reports. But in the beginning, I would read and then hear unprofessional conduct, I would think the absolute worst. Then you read it and it's like, oh, well, he had a dual fee schedule. And that's what this doctor did, but it cost him so much money. So not only was he having this cash fee, not only was he diminishing the revenue coming into his office by trying to be helpful and to offer affordable care the wrong way, it cost him $10,000 in fines, and he had to reimburse his board for the cost of the investigation of up to $5,000. And he was put on probation for 2 years. So it's like you're diminishing your revenue and then you're costing yourself more money. So we want to make sure we're doing it the right way. The courts care. What's really interesting to me is in this case with Fowler versus the New Jersey Dental Association. So this particular doctor, and again, this is dental, but it's still applicable, was waiving the copay. He was an out-of-network doctor who was waiving the copay, filing insurance. Well, Cigna found out, and they said, hey, listen, not Cigna. So the Dental Association found out during an investigation. So the court said, in the court document says he lied to payers when he waived that copay and submitted the full charges to them. He wasn't holding the end of the bargain. You have to collect $20 from the patient. Insurance company is going to reimburse you for the difference. Or a percentage of the difference. Unfortunately, they required him to report this waiver of copay policy to every provider, which means he had to report it to Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, any insurance company where he had been doing this, to every one of them, which opened up a Pandora's box of audits and investigations. So whose rules do you follow? Because there's a bazillion rules from your Board of Examiners all the way up to the Office of Inspector General. So the Board of Examiners all the way at the bottom, and I don't want you to think that in any way this diminishes the importance of the rules and regulations they have in place, because it does not. The big daddy of them all is the OIG. But I'll give you a prime example of one state that I work with very closely, and their Board of Examiner has an old rule that is still in place that says they're allowed to offer a 30% time of service discount. We very clearly just learned that OIG, the big daddy in yellow, says that 5 to 15% is considered a reasonable time of service discount. So in this situation, whose rule do you follow? State rules do not supersede federal rules and regulations. And a lot of times what I always say is you want to follow the rule that is the most stringent, strict. And if you're not sure, reach out to your state association. I cannot impress upon y'all enough. And then whenever you get advice like that, get it in writing and put it in your book, compliance book. So we know audits are on the rise, and then in the wake of COVID, they did take like a little break on doing audits. However, back in August, they announced they were getting back to it and they were going to start doing it. Now, Medicare gets a big bad rap in the federal government as being the big bad wolf of audits, when in fact, they only make up about 24% of the audits that happen in this country. They just happen to be the ones that are most sensational. I've never seen a board report that says, or a press release that said, chiropractor fined $200,000 from their board. Not ever, never, ever have I ever seen that. Not likely that we will ever, never, ever see that. So, but people who are doing the most audits are actually the third-party insurance companies, especially those that are involved in automobile insurance. I'm just saying, auto insurance carriers. Most of those recoupment demands fall somewhere between $25,000 to $100,000. Now, here's the good news. It's not I think it is. The reality is that it's not a matter of if you'll get audited, but when. And this is not meant to scare you. It's just reality. You want to be prepared for it. I consider it kind of like a pop quiz on how we're doing. And you're going to get audited and things are going to happen. You just want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. That's why you have to have checks and balances in place. And again, forgive me, I get too excited when I talk about these things. There's also a product out there that is audit insurance that will protect you in this situation up to $1 million, and it will cover your fines and penalties. Now, what it will not cover, and this is like HIPAA, OIG, board, investigations, all of that stuff. What it does not cover are recoupment demands. So you be honest, if you shine a bright enough light in any office, even ours, we're very much focused on compliance, like mildly obsessed a little bit. You're still going to find mistakes, because the bottom line is we still do a lot of stuff manually, and people make mistakes. We're human. Is it the end of the world? No. When we find them, we correct them. We notate it. But just to be on the safe side, we also have audit insurance. Records requests. Let me just say this about records requests. When they come in, you need checks and balances in place to ensure that they are getting out. I'd rather it be late than not sending it out. So when we're talking about that 80% error rate for Medicare that came out in that OIG report, the fact of the matter is there were doctors all over the country who were not responding to records requests, which gave them 100% error rate, which means if you were doing the right thing and you were following up with them, even if you were doing great and you had like one mistake out of 20 charts, the numbers were skewed when everybody else's 20 charts was considered 100% error because they never submitted them. Make sure that they are being turned in. I cannot stress this enough. There needs to be a log where it's documented the day that it came in, whose file it was, and then you have somebody double check it. Make sure that you're only submitting what they asked for and that you return it. Again, it's better to be late. It's better for it to be wrong, and you know that there's an issue. You can make an amendment that you realized in auditing this chart before sending it in. You amend it and correct it. But whatever you do, send it in. Send it in. Because ignoring it is only going to make the problem bigger. So what was really interesting about this particular one that came from Aetna was that the second page had additional information. Do you offer your patients any discounts or special offers? If yes, how are these discounts and special offers reflected on the claim submitted for reimbursement? Well, if you've ever been in one of my classes, you know that this is like a completely ridiculous question. There is nowhere on the claim form for you to indicate this at all. It's a trick. The second one says, do you currently accept insurance payments as payment in full? Now, we've also seen where it stops right there and it doesn't ask any additional questions. And then in some cases like this one, it says, what we're really asking you is, do you waive co-pays, co-insurance, and or applicable deductible? Now, in most every case, somebody on your staff is the one responding to these records requests. Are you confident they would answer these questions correctly? Because if it says, do you offer your patients any discounts or special offers, and they were, oh yeah, we're doing a Facebook special coupon for a free initial exam, and they write that on there, well, you just admitted to whoever's doing this records request that you are violating the rules and regulations, your provider agreement, offering an inducement, potential false claim act. Not that I'm saying you should lie, you shouldn't, but you want to make sure that you're answering these correctly, because as you can see, answering yes to that question could cost you $60,000. Now, on the do you accept insurance payments as payment in full? We actually have this online risk assessment that you can do. And you answer a couple, like 7 questions, and it gives you back a report of areas that you might want to, like, you answered this, which could be a potential violation here. Here's the recommendation that we make, and it's not join ChiroHealthUSA in case you're wondering, but it gives you recommendations that you can do on your own in your office to eliminate or minimize that risk. And one of the questions is, do you currently accept insurance payments as payment in full? Now, thousands of people have filled this out over the years, and like 99% of the time, they always answer yes. They answered yes. Now, when we do the follow-up call to go over the report, make sure they don't have any questions, we always say, well, do you waive copays and deductibles? And they're like, oh, absolutely not. Now, every now and then somebody says yes, but more often than not, they say, oh, absolutely not. We don't do that. But you answered yes to this question. You said that you did. So you want to make sure that your staff understands what the answers to those questions are and that you are reviewing them before they go out. How we want to respond to this when it comes up in a records request is the only time we offer a discount is when it's required by mandate, by contractual agreement, or a documented hardship, because that shows that you have a rock solid financial policy in your practice. And this is a sample. Now, I wish we were in person. This is the only thing I hate about webinars is the lack of interaction. I can't hear you. But I always ask people all the time, when was the last time you looked at your financial policy? When was the last time? And how long is it? Okay, I've had as high in person, somebody say 8 pages, which is crazy. So this one is about half a page long. And let me tell you why that is so important. It's because it is very clear and very concise about what it is that we do and we don't do, and how we collect money and how you get a discount in this office. One, in an audit situation, they're going to want to see your financial policy. It's going to tell on you all day, every day, because there's way too much information in a lot of them. Number 2, this is one of the first things you will learn when you come to work in the office. Every single person from the front desk all the way up to the associate doctors, therapy, everybody has to be able to answer these questions and know this front to back, left to right, and inside out. Because at any point while a patient is in the office, they can ask about your financial policy. And the answer is not, I don't know. Let me ask Susie Sunshine, because she's the only person who knows, because it's an 8-page document that was written when she started 25 years ago. It is, oh, absolutely, I can get you a copy of that, but the answer to your question is A, B, C, D, E. And they're able to easily answer that question. It's just very professional, very clear, very concise. And it says, in an effort to maintain compliance with various state and federal regulations, managed care, preferred provider agreements, as well as billing and coding guidelines, we've adopted the following policy. We have a single fee schedule in our office. How many of you have ever heard Larry Markson? And he says, my fee is my fee is my fee, meaning I have one fee in my office, the actual fee for services provided. The only time you're going to get a contractual discount is if you meet one of the following circumstances. We participate in your health plan. That's pretty simple. Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, whoever those are. Number 2, you're covered by a state or federal program with a mandated fee schedule. Oh, I don't know. Medicare, Medicaid, workers' comp, could be PI, depending on where you practice. You're a member of a discount medical plan, if that is something that you offer in your office. If you're eligible and choose a payment plan that allows for a prompt pay discount, meaning your credit card is on file or you're paying at the time of service, something like that, and you're getting that 5 to 10, maybe 15% discount. Or you meet our hardship policy. Note that the hardship policy is completely separate and distinct. It is not part of this. It's a separate policy. It's a hardship policy. So it is its own policy that is not part of this policy. So I'm challenging you guys below the DOS off the notebook at the front desk. Review your financial policy. I know y'all don't want to review policies, and paperwork is your least favorite thing. Interacting with your patients is your favorite. But I'm challenging you to review and update the financial policy you have on file, and then make it a point to get everybody on your staff to know it and learn it by heart. Ooh, we're doing good on time. Told you I was going to get y'all up early today. So, again, my favorite quote from Dr. Larry Markson. Your fee is your fee is your fee. Y'all know he was on a webinar with us a couple of months ago. Made my day. Oh, it made my day. I was so excited. Dr. Berquist was on there too, and I love him. He's going to be here in January, but Alan, if you're on here, I'm sorry. I'm so excited. paperwork stuff's on here. But anyway, so we have one fee for each service. So this is how I want you to think about it. This is not like your insurance fee, but I love when I'm talking about fees with doctors. And I'm like, well, what is your fee for 9894? Well, my PI fee is this, my workers' comp fee is this, my insurance fee is maybe this, my cash fee is this. No, I have one fee. If a 9894 in your office is $100, then for PI, it's $100. For workers' comp, it's $100. For an insured patient, it is $100. And for a cash fee, can anybody guess? $100. Now, the only time they're getting a discount, if we think about what it says in our financial policy, is if it's part of a mandated fee schedule, meaning workers' comp might say, okay, for a 9894, we'll pay $90, which means instead of getting paid $100, we're getting paid $90. Workers' comp, PI, that mandated fee schedules, possibly. Insurance, based on your contractual agreement with them. They might say, well, your fee is $100, but we're going to pay you $60. Okay, that's a contractual fee schedule. For my cash patients, it's $100 unless you have a DMPO, unless you're offering a time of service discount of 5 to 15%, which if you think about it, on a $100 service, 5% is $5. 10% is $10. 15% makes it $85. Is that enough of a discount to make care affordable when you're wanting to see a patient on a weekly basis? Probably not. So I'm not telling you to lower your fees. I'm just saying there are other options out there, safer options. Okay, but the bigger question is one I want to ask you. So a couple weeks ago, we had Mandy and Heather on here talking about the importance of evaluating your fees on an annual basis. And then how did you determine what those fees were to begin with? And they gave some great resources like the Chiro Code website, fairhealthconsumer.org, and gave you some direction on how to set up a spreadsheet to evaluate your fees on an annual basis. And yes, if you've never done this, it's going to be quite a process in the beginning. Don't put that off. You can get a staff member to help you and research all this information because it's incredibly important to the financial health and wealth of your business. And you need to evaluate them on an annual basis. One, you're not going to flip a coin to decide what it's going to be. We're not going to get warm and fuzzy feelings about what we should charge. We're not going to phone a friend and ask them down the street, hey man, what you charging for a new patient exam? No, we're not going to do that because that's price fixing and big no. There are consultants out there who will actually do all this legwork for you for a small fee. So utilize one of them if you want to, use a third party to get that done for you, or do it yourself and have a staff member help you so that you can see what is the market rate in your area, how far off are you, and why is that so important? Because if you haven't updated your fees in a long time, I'm looking ahead to see what's going on. Okay, so if you haven't updated your fees in a long time, you may very well be under market value. I'll give you a prime example. We know that their inflation is just a part of life and that things go up in price year over year. I mean, in COVID, things have gone up in price ridiculously, right? The harder they are to find, the higher that price goes. Gas prices are my favorite thing to hear my parents or my grandparents talk about. Like back when, I started driving, this is going to give away my age. Back when I started driving, gas was 99 cents a gallon. I remember when I could fill up my car for $10, which also seemed like a lot of money back in those days. But I could fill up my car for 99 cents a gallon. I filled up my car for $2.79 a gallon, which, by the way, felt like a deal considering I've seen prices up to $2.99 the other day. So inflation, the price of gas has gone up in the XYZ number of years since I started driving. So if you haven't been raising your fees to go up with inflation, your utilities are going up, your expenses are going up. You're probably giving your staff pay increases for cost of living at about 3%. And your fees are not catching up with them, which means now all of a sudden we have this imbalance where expenses are going up, but revenue is staying the same. And now your profits are becoming more narrow. So you're seeing the same number of patients, you're working just as hard as you were before, but you're not making any more money. And in some cases, maybe you're even doing more than you have in the past and you're not making more money. And you're wondering what's going on. This is what's going on. You got to evaluate this fee. How important is it? Well, just the average of $5 per visit. $5 per visit, but less than the cost of Starbucks. There's inflation for you. I remember when Starbucks was $5, but less than a cup of coffee per visit. So you could do 3 or 4 services that average out to $5 more a visit, is the equivalent of 13 months of revenue in a 12-month period of time. What would that do for your business? Because at the same time, we want to help as many patients as we can. We want to offer affordable options, but we also want to be profitable. Because the more profitable you are, the more people you can help. The more people you can hire so you can help more people. The longer you stay in business. And if you can't keep your doors open, you can't treat the patients in your community. And that would be tragic. We know that fees vary because we trade provider status for that discounted rate. So I have a $100 adjustment, and Blue Cross says, well, I'll pay you $41. And it says, I'll pay you $32. And Cigna says, hey, I'll pay you $24. And we accept that. But you want to know what your cost of doing business is, because if you have to make $25 a visit, then you don't want to sign provider contracts that are paying you less than your cost of doing business. And we do find ourselves doing that over time. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let me look at something. So a lot of times I talk to providers. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. A lot of times I talk to providers who say, well, I don't offer any type of discounts. Well, if you are in network with insurance companies, yeah, you're offering discounts because you signed a provider contract with the insurance company and agreed to take less. I'm sorry, y'all. I hit a crazy button somewhere in here, and now I can't see half of my screen. Okay. So patient pays hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month for insurance to get the Magic Blue Card. And you know why we call it the Magic Blue Card? Because they expect it to cover everything in your office. That's a hard question of a conversation to have. Doctor says, my fee is my fee is my fee. It'll be $100. Patient says, I have the Magic Blue Card. Doc says, okay, great. It'll be $60 based on the contract I have with the insurance company. It is that simple. So we have our actual fees, which are the highest fees in our practice. The fees by which every other fee is based off of. Then you have your contracted fees. You decided to be in network with a handful of insurance companies. You might be using a DMPO, which again is another contractual fee. You have your regulated fees, which is Medicare, Medicaid, it's workers' comp, could be PI, depending on your state, and then your hardship fee schedule that you have in your practice. That makes up all the layers of fees and discounts in your office. It is just that simple. So I want you to ask yourself and be really honest, because, hey, we're about to start on a new year, new you. Does the financial policy that you currently have in place, that you might not have seen in a while, and the discounts that you're offering meet all the layers of the rules and regulations from the Board of Examiners all the way up to the Office of Inspector General? And I hope they do. But if they're not, then what can we do about that? Well, here's why you could use a DMPO. Now, I will say this. If you ever do a consult with Mandy from ChiroHealthUSA and say, hey, do I need you in my practice? Here's what I'm concerned about. She will tell you, one, how to fix it all by yourself without ever having to use us. Number two, you might not even need to use this, and what you're worried about is probably fairly it's not an issue. And she'll tell you that if you don't need us at all. And number three, she'll tell you why you'd want to use us if that is an option. She'll always give you those options. So again, you sign a contract with us, same as you would with an insurance company. We are not insurance. We are not insurance. Patient comes in and says, you say my fee is my fee is my fee. Doc says, patient says, oh my gosh, I can't afford $100 for this adjustment. Doc says, don't worry. We have a program, ChiroHealthUSA, in our office for patients just like you. Patient pays $49, covers them and all of their legal dependents. They get the flashy orange card so they can get that discounted rate from the doctor. All you're required to do is get a minimum of 5% off. We're going to work with you to determine what is your cost of doing business, because we don't want you to discount so low that you're not making enough money to be profitable. But this is a way to give contractually compliant discounts outside of the realm of what the rules and regulations allow, similar to the discounts that are imposed when you utilize insurance in your practice or accept insurance in your practice. Only you get to decide what you're going to get paid. So again, we have the same actual fees in your office. Here's your contracted fees using the DMPO. A lot of our providers like to use a capped fee. Now, why would you want to do this? I'm pretty sure this is on the slide coming up, but I love this example. Docs, ask your front desk how often they get asked a day. How much does it cost to see the doctor? It might blow your mind. Bottom line is these are people who have a problem. They know chiropractic can help. What they don't know is if they can afford it. And when you use a CAP fee, this is the fastest way to get these patients in your door, which is, well, it really depends on what the doctor finds necessary, what your insurance will cover. Well, they're calling because they either don't have insurance, don't have chiropractic coverage under their insurance, or have a high deductible plan. They are going to fess that up right then and there, meaning Sally Sunshine can say, no problem. We have this great program, ChiroHealthUSA. The most you would pay is whatever that CAP fee is. It's only $49 to join. Do you prefer a morning or an afternoon appointment? It's just that simple. Routine office visit. You can also set a capped fee. You can set fees per code set or per code for your patients that are Medicare, for all of those other non-covered services. For your hardship patients, they don't need a program like ChiroHealthUSA. They just fall under your hardship policy and your hardship fees. So, I am going to make it to make sure you guys get a little break today. So even if your state says you can discount, you have to be mindful of the federal regulations on inducements, fair market value, and the provider agreements that you sign. Listen, if you didn't read those provider agreements, I'm not going to ask you to fess up. You should, so you know what you agreed to. Number two, staff out there who's doing billing and insurance, read the provider agreement so you know what it is that the doctor agreed to. Even if your state says you can discount, you probably can't discount to the level that you think you can. And when you join a DMPO, none of that matters because then those discounts all fall under the DMPO. So unlike insurance, we're going to move that. Oh, that's not what I want to move. I hate when this happens. So unlike insurance, we don't actually dictate to you. There it is. We don't dictate to you what you're going to get paid under that fee schedule. So you decide that level of discount that you're going to offer. There's no cost to you to become part of the network. And you stay in control with a 30-day opt-out clause with no chance of silent PPO activity. I can tell you that our attorneys thought that was the most ridiculous thing that we could have put in our contract. But the bottom line is Dr. Foxworth didn't want to have a contract that he himself wouldn't feel comfortable signing. And that was one of the things that really bothered him about the DMPOs he tried to put into place when he was looking for one for his practice, was that he became the victim of silent PPO activity. He does not want that for anybody else. So what we learned today, the potential risk with offering discounts the wrong way, the 100% legal way to offer discounts, and how to have peace of mind without risking your license, your livelihood, and to be able to help as many patients as possible access affordable care using a DMPO. Okay, last part. So here's the thing, is that the whole premise of ChiroHealthUSA was to help eliminate risk in your practice. Obviously, using it in his own practice, what we found is that, one, it also had a lot of financial benefits to the practice and the provider. The first being that it allowed Doc to be able to set his fees at market value because he wasn't having to arbitrarily discount his fees to make care more affordable for patients who didn't have insurance. It allowed him to convert more shopper calls to new patients. He stopped losing patients who stopped running out when their insurance ran out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Insurance covers enough visits for your patient to get out of pain. When pain ends, healing begins. There is a reason why you're asking them to come in for 12 to 15 visits. Insurance covered 8. Patient is no longer in pain. They're seeing the EOBs that they don't understand. They don't know how to read them. So they're seeing that you're billing out $115 a visit, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not paying that." This gives you an option to say, "Hey, we have this program, ChiroHealthUSA, that picks up on visit 9. Instead of $115 a visit, you're going to pay $65 or $75 or $50 or whatever number that is that you set." You won't feel compelled to participate in networks that are not paying you what you're worth, that are not undercutting your fees and causing you to lose money, because you'll have another option for them with a discount medical plan. Be able to see more families with a legal family plan. My whole family gets chiropractic care. My whole family. Including my bonus babies when I have extra fosters in my house, not just my son and my husband, but we all get chiropractic care regularly, almost weekly. And I can't imagine. My son could not imagine, probably can't even remember a day in his life when he didn't go get an adjustment for everything. So your patients have spouses and children. Bring them in. Kids need chiropractic care. Y'all have heard me cry on here when we talk to chiropractors who specialize in pediatrics, or talk to Heidi Havoc about pediatric research and how important it is to me. One of my bonus babies was a chiropractic miracle. A miracle. She blew away all of her team of healthcare providers at the local children's hospital. When she didn't just meet her milestones, she blew through them and blew their minds. And I'm telling you, it's because she went to the chiropractor 3 days a week for 3 months. Oh, I love it. And I talk about that in one of my webinars with Dr. Tony Ebel, if you ever go back and look at it. And then be able to handle those patients who have high deductibles and high copays with ease. So listen, I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have about discounts in your office, potential risks, things you're worried about, things you're concerned about. I'll answer questions about anything, actually. But if you'd like to schedule a consult with me, who is this pretty redhead right here, if you call the office, you're bound to speak to any number of these young ladies. We're super friendly, Southern accent. We're fun to talk to. Might make you laugh. Just, let us know. It's really funny. We talk all the time. In fact, I was talking to one of the girls on the provider services team today, and she had 3 or 4 calls this morning. Not one single one of them had anything to do with us, but she was just helping her providers answer some questions about other aspects in their practice. They're a great resource. Reach out to them. You can go to our website, ChiroHealthUSA.com. Tons of resources there. You don't have to be a provider with us to access any of those resources. We don't hide anything. We think education, knowledge should be free. There's great articles from consultants around the country. There's great articles from Dr. Foxworth. There's some great videos about different things you can do in your practice, utilize in your practice. Amazing downloads, handouts, anything to help you grow and build your practice. We're so invested in your success. Again, you don't have to be, whether you're a provider with us or not, that's not even part of it. So reach out to us, check out our website, follow us on Facebook. We have lots of great stuff that you can share with your patients. Next week is our final webinar. It won't be me or anybody from ChiroHealthUSA for that matter. We're going to go over E&M changes for 2021 one more time. And then we'll never talk about it again this year. And it may be a long time unless y'all request it in 2021, because we've already done this like 4 times. But I just want to make sure that everybody is crystal clear and understands what's going on with those changes. Also, a reminder, don't forget, we have a new ABN form that y'all need to be using. If you're not already using it now, it goes into effect January 1st. Make sure you go download that. I love healthcare changes in the beginning of the year. So Dr. Scott Munsterman is going to come on here and he's going to talk about E&M coding for 2021 next Tuesday. But that is our last webinar until January the 12th. So we're going to go almost a whole month with no webinars, because I know you guys are looking forward to a break at the holidays and get y'all through Christmas and the new year and get back into the office before we kick back up. And then we're going to have Dr. Alan Berkowitz, Dr. Nathan Unruh, and Brady Grunhoff here. And they're going to their webinar is Stop Chasing Your Money. And that should be super fun. Really exciting, definitely entertaining with the 3 of them. So we're hoping to see a couple more panel discussions. We're going to start doing some more that are more podcast-like, less presentation. Got some great changes coming in 2021. I love y'all's feedback. So you all have my email address, Kristi@ChiroHealthUSA.com. Make sure you reach out to me. Let me know what topics you're looking for in 2021. Any changes or suggestions that you have for 2021. I am open to them all. And I hope you all have an amazing holiday. Again, I'll be here next week. I say that like this is it. But no, I will, I'm going on vacation next week, but I am still going to do the webinar with Dr. Munsterman. So we will be here next week. And then after that, I will see y'all on January 12th. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and a fabulous weekend. Get some rest, and I will see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.